All right. Didn't really mean to make this live right now. I've got a couple technological kinks that I got to work out. Um, let's see. If you guys are there, can you tell me if the audio is coming in well? Because I'm not seeing anything on this. Let me see. What's up, Shaggy? Yeah, would you be able to let me know? Can you hear me? Is the audio working out? Let's see. I've got a couple. Oh, nice, dude. Shotgun and a rifle build. That sounds interesting. Okay, good. Yeah. Was it a shotgun build? You don't really see or hear that a lot. And I apologize to you and everyone else. I'm working through some technological stuff here. I specialize in open bolt weapons and explosives, but not stuff you plug into a computer or USB port. I'm getting better. Let's see. Okay. That's looking brighter, but now I need something heavy. Yeah, sorry about the glitches and this cord that's in the way. For hell's sake. Okay, let's see. All right. I think we're getting close. Let's see. So for those of you guys just joining me, I actually was going to try to schedule this for later, but we're kind of doing it now, so we might as well just send it, dude. So yeah, you guys can ask any questions you want. A lot of stuff that has transpired in the last week and other things going on. Let me see, because I'm old. Yeah, full send or no send. What's up, dude? Let's see. Maverick 88, chopped 19-inch barrel, Magpul furniture, quick detach, side saddle, T-Rex sling, and cheap-ass light. Oh, Jesus. That might set me into a tangent. So if there's anything... Range Chris and Miss Texas and Sabo and other people who know me, like, dude, if it's a defensive gun, you already know that it has at least a minimum a weapon light. Probably my number one. If it's like, oh man, I don't have enough money this month or for a month or two, like, but I have like a defensive AR-15 for home defense, like, dude, the red dot is great. You can still make things happen with iron sights, even at close range. Get a weapon light, a quality one, and then move into the red dot. And the only reason I'm saying that is because we've all been there, and I have totally been there, where, you know, something looks really cool. It looks like it's going to do the task and purpose on the weapon system. It's going to get stuff done. It makes sense. And it's in budget. It's like, 20% of the cost of all the cool guy stuff, like aim point or anything else. So like, let's go ahead and do this red dot. And, depending on how hard you run your guns, a week later, 2 months later, the thing literally disintegrates on your gun under recoil or do whatever training course or whatever you're doing. And you're like, holy shit, this was an awful decision. I need stuff that doesn't like fall apart on my gun. I'm not going to mention some brands. I was doing some product testing on my second deployment. I guess you can call it independent product testing on stuff that I put on my M4, stuff I put on a Mark 48, things like that. And it literally fucking fell apart on the gun like three months in. I was like, dude, we are literally 11 Bravos. If it cannot survive this lifestyle and what we're doing out here, just living most of the time, like going to the mess tent to get the shitty sandwiches and stuff that the cooks had. it can't survive outside the wire and what we're doing there. Like, dude, just get it the fuck off the gun, like instantly, and get quality stuff. So anyway, yeah, weapon light followed up by a red dot. And as long as both of those things are quality, the gun is quality, quality magazines, if it takes them, quality ammunition that you've gone out there and tested to ensure it's reliable, zeroed the weapon, whatever. That's a recipe for success, dude. Like, you're gonna make it. Let's see, we're getting some stuff. In addition to finishing some builds up, I also got in a new EDC belt and holster, both of which that's good. Both of which take time, dude. Like, I have a huge tough box just full of belts and mag pouches and you name it, it's in there, of stuff that I've used. It just continually changing gear for the mission. So it's just going to take some time. What's up, Grizz? How you doing? Hopefully you're doing well. I know you texted me a little while back. It's been out of control. It's been insane in the gun world. So apologize for not getting back to you, but I hope you're doing well. And going back to Shaggy, let's see. Light was first thing I put on my rifle. Not so much the shotgun, as it wasn't originally going to be home defense weapon. But I've got a light on it now. We'll upgrade to a Surefire or Streamlight when I can, I guess. Good to hear, Grizz. Yeah, it's good to hear, man. I meant to text you back. Yeah, things have been out of control. And in the process of trying to start a business and trying to look at all the tax paperwork, we got a trust going down tomorrow. We got a bunch of other stuff. Like, it's been out of control busy. We'll put it that way. Probably got maybe an hour and a half tonight total is probably what we got. But we'll see how long I can hang in there before we got other stuff going on. Yeah, good light, good light, iron sights, and a quality optic is a necessity. Yeah, I mean, I think a red dot drastically improves hit probability once you do some training. You're no longer doing front and rear sight, sight picture, sight alignment. Those equation, those pieces of the equation are knocked out entirely. So you just have a dot on a target, and of course, knowing or should know your holdovers and hold unders. Especially hold unders. If we're talking home defense, you probably got a 50-yard zero on your AR with a red dot. Hold unders and knowing exactly how low you're actually impacting when you put the dot on. Barricades, probably one of the most useful things you can do at a training course or on the range. If you got barricades and now you're having to do like urban prone, get on the ground, you're having to shoot this gun from not a perfect cheek weld, not a perfect length of pole. And, it's, I'm sure some of you guys can relate. Dude, I've been to ranges across the world, but also across the country. And in our country, like, some of these ranges, like, oh man, like, I'm not going to mention the name. And I don't think I want to like tell this story right now, but there was one range outside of Houston, Texas, that was the most asinine range that I had ever been to in my fucking life. And, one shot per every 2 seconds, you couldn't work from the holster at all. Even if you provided certifications that you're an NRA pistol and rifle instructor, they let law enforcement do it, but they wouldn't let a deployed, infantryman do it with NRA certs. I know that for sure. They had targets out there at like 7 or 15 yards on the pistol range. And during the ceasefire, you would like give your target to, like the range kid, and he would staple gun it and like swap your targets for you. And there was like, it was so bad, dude. It was so bad. And they also like the cost of admission was how many guns I was bringing. I'm like, wait a minute, my range fee simply to use your range amplifies by how many guns I'm bringing, my own guns. Like, I'd understand if I was renting a gun from you, but like how many guns I'm going to bring. So if I have one pistol that I want to work with, it's going to be $20. But if I have 6 pistols, which I actually had like 7, I'm like, dude, my range fee is going to be like over a C note. Like, dude, get the like. That was the first and last time I went there. But some of the ranges across the country, I don't know what you guys have, what your setup is, and we'll have people come into our range like, hey, can I shoot my 300 Win Mag in here? I'm like, dude, we shoot 50 Browning machine gun. Like, we shoot our MG42, 7, 249, Wasser 10 full auto, RPK. Like, dude, we shoot so much shit here. We're not about one shot a second thing, clearly, when we're doing like 1,400 rounds a minute on the MG42. Like, so shit, where was I going on that tangent? Let me take a break here. Hopefully it says my connection is shitty, which it is. But hopefully I'm back for you guys. Grab this real quick. Okay. This is the real reason I was up here, by the way. I was going to do a dope chart, tape it on the side of my stock like I did every deployment. 16-inch barrel, 55 grain, 5.56. You know, what does that do? Holdovers and hold unders, especially as of late, hold unders. But didn't get to that, so we're doing it live. But anyway, yeah, there's some ranges, dude. But if you can go out in the middle of nowhere, and I always push this, but clean up your own nasty shit, shell casings, targetry, garbage. Don't be the guy who's going to bring like a fucking toilet or a couch or something out there, shoot at it, and just leave it out in the middle of nowhere. Like, that's how your public shooting areas get closed. Out here in Utah, big time, we've learned the hard way about that between the fires and county sheriffs and the legislature shutting it down because people are just dumping too much shit out there for no fucking reason. So definitely clean it up. But if you ever have the ability to go out there and really set up barricades and you're having to shoot your AR, you're having to make different angles and stuff, work around stuff on the ground, and weird stuff shows up when you're shooting in the prone, like dust starts blasting up depending what muzzle device you have. Guys out there have like these crazy muzzle brakes that look like the fucking compensator on the end of like a Tiger tank, you know, like this huge like blast chambers. Like, oh man, we're gonna take the stunning shoulder hurting by to mitigate that at the expense of literally everyone around me and all of the dust that I'm going to jam up into my optic front and back, especially front. Like, dude, no. But if you like, that's how you really, if you guys really want to know how to test gear, equipment, stuff on the rifle, chest rigs, EDC, holsters, and, you know, battle belts and chest rigs. Hey, I'm going to put this sling here, like set up at least like 3-mile course. Go run it, have barricades, you know, move out 300 meters and in, have some crazy shit at like 5 meters. You know, if you really set it out there and you smoke yourself down, like you haze yourself from a cardio perspective over an endurance kind of situation, or you don't even have to do that. Like, dude, like shit. If you, it's like for you, like recon dudes or 11 Bravos or 03 series, like, you sit there like 2 a.m, you're running on like 30 hours with no sleep at a minimum. At like 02, they're like, hey man, we got like a 12-click movement and it's going to be up and down the hills. Like, by the way, you have the 240 and here's like your 120-pound rock. Dude, let me tell you, shit is going to start coming off the gun immediately. I see so much shit every day. It's kind of like, I'm sorry, guy, I'm just sending it like a rant. I see so many customer guns that come in. Like, I had one customer, he like broke my personal record of how many aiming solutions this dude had on the gun. and he had like 7 different things. He had his primary red dot, which was just Chinesium garbage. He had other 45 degree in case, like, he needed the transition over here, which was also hot trash. He had like iron sights that were also garbage, like absolute garbage, that were just like the second that thing hits the deck, like that, the rear sight's gonna pop off. Who the fuck cares? And then like this crazy like laser thing with like this corded wire thing that he had like duct taped around the non-free floating handguard. It was a thing that he had like duct taped around the non-free floating handguard. It was like the cordless like shit that your mom had in the kitchen, so you could like pick up the phone. For you 80s kids, you guys remember like picking up the phone in the kitchen. You could walk like 20 meters down the house in the hallway, and you had like this huge fucking, you almost needed to like sling load that shit. He had it all, and it was all garbage. And as I was shooting, like half of his optics were just like red dot, no red dot. Laser's gone. Like under recoil, this shit was failing. I was like, for the price of all this garbage, you could have bought just an aim point patrol rifle optic. You could have bought even a hollow stone like 403 series. You could have like, but for all of this hot trash you have on the gun, absolutely nothing at it. And I was like, do not use this gun for self-defense, literally ever, until we make some significant changes on how the fuck we're doing things here. Like, do not. We're doing things here. Like, do not. So if you really want to test that, go do, a degree, 270 degree range, set up your own course, go out with some buddies, or, just carry that shit. Like, hey, we got a 120-pound rucksack. We've got an M4 or an AR-15 that weighs somehow like 25 pounds with, dude, serious. Like, if you guys really want to come to Jesus moment on your O2, shit hits the fan, ride or die AR-15, and it looks like a fucking spaceship, go take that thing on the whole time. So you will know the shit is going to come, like, start coming off the gun as fast as you can physically unscrew it and just throw it in the fucking mud. Like, that's so. Anyway, that's the side of it. Let me get back to your comments. I don't want to neglect you guys. Let's see. By and large is yeah, I think by and large is how work your time. Yeah, that range, which I would never go back to, and I'm really sad that some people, that's the only range they have, is some crazy range like that. Yeah, no. Let's see. So does anyone else here think that these mass shootings and gun control bill and nonsense are extremely coincidental, or vice versa? Big ass elephant in the room from Grizzly Bear. Infantry Life Saw Gunner, I know, dude. Like, you were, yeah, Deco, right? I'm not going to say the battalion, but yeah, you're down there, Nasty Swamp Mountain. You get it. You understand. Yeah, dude. So I've heard that thrown around a lot in the past week, and especially today. Kind of closing the shop yesterday, we had some people like, oh man, isn't this like such a coincidence that we're trying to do HR 127, which bottom line up front, I think that's going nowhere, at least for now. We're looking at these other gun control bills. We're looking at all this stuff. And man, we just, if I'm taking that argument and harnessing it, then I would say, like, oh man, we're right on the cusp of trying to get Congress to make some movement. We do have this ridiculous, like, razor's edge, number of senators in the Senate. Like, we just need a little bit of a push. So what can we do? Like, let's just send it, dude. Let's make this like crazy thing. My response to that is, I'm not the guy who's ever going to say that it is completely impossible for that to happen. But I'm also the guy who has lived in and seen some crazy shit happen for no apparent fucking reason. And when you actually like do the 15-6 on it, or like trace down that lethal aid facilitator and then move into the second, like primary, secondary, even tertiary, like results of that, and you move into why did this happen. It makes no fucking sense. um so I'm the guy that's like, I know most civilians have not seen like wildly violent and evil awful shit happen, and when you actually like fucking hunt that shit down and you find out like, wow, this really, there was no grand guy behind the curtain like crazy conspiracies, just that's how retarded things got, and it was bad. um so I'm not the guy saying it's 100% impossible, but I'm also the guy that's saying like, look, I think by and large a lot of people do not understand like dude, the level of evil that's out there. I remember we had this one going off on another tangent. You guys, it's relative. You guys might like it, but like we had a lot of the ISIS dudes when I was in Haditha, and going down even before that's Al Qaim, and a very, it is definitely not interrogation at all, but just a very basic to these guys. Like people don't know why they did it, what their fight is all about. And at the end of it, like, yeah, dude, like you're an honorable man. So if I ever captured you on this battlefield, if I ever can break free and escape, and I captured you, instead of cut your head off, like I would just shoot you just to help you out. And I was like, thanks. I guess like people don't in the Western world, or at least in our country, like unless you've seen it, dude, like people don't understand it, dude. Like people don't understand that level of chaotic violence and driven by like who's driving the bus. It's this incredible evil. So it's like, man, the only thing I have to say is trying to cut that off a little bit is like, dude, I'm not the conspiracy man. I'm just saying the timing on things sometimes, but also I don't think people really fucking understand like the problem that some people have on here, or HME, or they get wrapped up in the Taliban or some Al Qaeda shit, and they go out there and they just do some shit. And when you actually delve into like, why did this happen and how did this, like, it makes no fucking sense. It just happened. And this was the time, this was the place. Like, oh man, like we are putting so many reasons into this of like, oh man, isn't this like coincidental that we're moving through Congress on stuff? There's talks about this. We already know that we have a president that's very hostile to the Second Amendment. And we're thinking about things through this lens. But when you really get on the ground level, you might discover it's like, no, dude, this guy was this fuse was lit like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And finally, we reached the end of that fuse, and it happened to be today or yesterday, this week. And this is just when he just fucking went off the handle. Sometimes, sometimes it is that way. So it's not me making excuses. I'm just saying, I don't think people sometimes really understand what is out there and how evil that shit is. Let's see. I might need my glasses. Just got started on adult beverage here. So let's see. From Shaggy, I've seen people like that. Some of them on YouTube. This dude had 2 optics, 2 lights, iron sights were in front of his optics, and he, for some reason, put a monster sticker on it. Yeah, oh my God. Yeah, that's a side note. One of my coworkers, again, nameless, has like 3 stickers on his gun, and one is 77 grain OTM round is trying to connect with you, and it has like this like you would see on a phone, like a chat bubble thing, and it says like, oh, we just you are now connected to, or it's like, I'm like, dude, we don't need to write things on our guns. We don't need stickers. We don't need this shit. Like, dude, it's a tool. It's not a jewel. And I've told him, like, dude, how would you, like, if you had a legitimate scenario of self-defense God forbid, I hope this doesn't happen to me, you, or anyone. But unfortunately, by the numbers, it happens every day in this country. But you have a dude, two dudes, three dudes busting into your house at 2 in the morning for God knows what, but they're trying to either steal shit from you or take things from you or do something, God forbid, to your family, your kids, whatever. Like, and you grab your gun, you do your thing, you preserve your own life, your family's life, and now that thing goes to court. Imagine that thing being held up with stickers on it. Like, this isn't NASCAR, dude. Like, this is a fucking weapon. And you're going to use it's a tool. Like, you're going to use this thing to save your own lives, preserve life. And now this thing's going to be held up in court with the gloves on, by the prosecutor's team with this like crazy monster sticker, some like fuckboy shit on there. Like, dude, this is a tool. It's like I have over a dozen hammers. They all have a purpose. They're all tools. I don't have stickers and shit on them. But then again, they're not weapons unless an individual human being wants to make them. So it's like it's a tool. It's a tool. Use it, train with it, keep it by the bedside, whatever. But this isn't NASCAR, man. Like, don't put these custom etched ejection port covers for AR-15s or like these cool guy like Glock back plates that have whatever. Like, dude, just it's a tool. Okay, train with it, keep it by you, and God forbid you need it, but use it to preserve life. And the last thing you need is some prosecutor holding this thing up in court with some fuckboy shit on the side of it because you put it there. And hey, that's another bullet point. That's another argument. They could literally make an argument on that, and you're being judged by a jury of your peers. You ever been to the gas station? I was going to the gas station before I got home today, just buying a couple cigars for later tonight. You ever go to the gas station in there? You see the jury of your peers who potentially are going to get jury duty, and they're going to get into that. Like, do you want to be judged by these people based on the fucking stickers you have on the side of your gun because you thought it was cool? So anyway, I'll stop on that. That's probably a little too much, but dude, it's a fucking tool. It's a weapon. Don't put all this. It's not NASCAR, dude. This is very serious business. Like, I don't know. Anyway, let's see. I'd rather not talk about the shootings. Same shit, every time. However, my opinion is that it's no longer a coincidence. So, yeah, I'm still, for me, the jury's still out on, is it a coincidence? Is it just happenstance? Whatever. My policy has been for years not to post anything. I'm the most pro-gun person you will probably ever meet or get to know. I say that to people, they don't believe me. And once we really have a conversation on the porch, moving into like midnight, smoking cigars, having some adult beverages, they're like, dude, you were not kidding. Like, you cigars, having some adult beverages, they're like, dude, you were not kidding. Like, you really are like what you said. I didn't think that was possible. I'm like, yeah, dude, like, I'm very Second Amendment. Very pro freedom in general. Like, all the amendments matter. Like, my focal point, as you guys know, is the Second Amendment, but all of the Bill of Rights, all of the amendments, all of our individual liberties, like, matter. So I'm not going to sit here saying one is more. Like, they're all important. Even the Third Amendment, which hasn't come up. Actually, I think it came up last year, ironically, but I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But where was I going with that? Yeah, so my policy for the past years now has been, in the immediate wake of a tragedy, where you have a killer on the loose, actively killing people. It's awful. Despite the fact that I would wager I'm probably the most pro Second Amendment person you will ever come to find or meet. I don't say anything. I don't post anything. I don't join into, the melee on social media. I don't say or do or post or talk, my My biggest thoughts go towards those who were killed, innocent people who were doing nothing wrong besides just trying to buy a soda or something, put groceries in the cart to feed their families. I think about them the most. And then secondly, like second order effects, you know, I go to a really not okay place, like a really sad place with friends, really deep, tight, personal friends who I've known who have killed themselves or died in some kind of motorcycle accident, pretty common in the military, whatever it was. And now it's not just that person, it's the wake of everyone else around that person. Um, and you just leave this wake of people who forever question, like, man, what if I just like picked up the phone? What if I had just done this? What it like, just if was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. And they're going to play that game forever. And in this case, they did nothing to deserve it. They did nothing. The victims, they did nothing to make this happen. And now you have a whole wake of just family members and friends, nephews, like people, fathers, mothers, like people who have to deal with that. Like, man, he was gonna like pick up a couple beers and grab some dinner for us, and he was gonna be right back. And I just saw him like 10 minutes ago. What the fuck? And now he's gone forever. Like, for me, I take that very seriously. I take it very personally. I reflect on the people that I've known that either you know got killed or died in some crazy car or motorcycle accident. The dudes who went down on the C-130 in Afghanistan. I think about dudes who got blown up, like Alex. I think about dudes who took their own life and everything else, and what it does to the rest of us who really cared about that person. That's what I think about the most, and I really do. That shit, it's a very personal thing, but I'll share that. Like it, that's what I think about anytime we see something like this. So, in the fresh aftermath of it, my stance is, you know what? As pro Second Amendment as I am, and as much as the evil and deranged actions of some evil person who may not necessarily act have been crazy, which kind of unsettles people, but the actions of that individual should not make our own rights suffer from guys like you and I who are doing things right, law-abiding citizens. But this is not the time. For me, it's personal reflection. It really is. So the long story short, without being too long-winded on that, times like these when things are super fresh, honestly, I just shut the fuck up. I don't post anything. I don't push any agenda. I don't, despite what I want to say and how valid I feel that I am when I say it, I don't. Not right now. There's people that are hurting. There's people who are still trying to figure that shit out, and it's really not my place to you know jump up there and say anything for guns or against guns. I don't think anybody should just instantly take it, run with it, and that's one of the major problems I see, where some people instantly take this and be like, "Oh, like if only someone in the grocery store or the parking lot had a gun, then it's like, dude, I feel the same way, but I'm not about to just jump out there the same day, the next day, just like post that shit. That's not. There's a time and place for everything, and for me, I'm not doing that. Not right now. Like there's people that are hurt. This shit's real. And then there's people on the anti-gun side, talking about this is why we need this is why we need that. And I just, I find it reprehensible. It's you like disgusting fucking human beings who are going to argue for or against guns. Honestly, like I don't care if it's for or against guns, dude. They're like now if you guys have had like a cousin or an uncle or a brother or like somebody who got murdered or over it, I'm gonna let it work it out. It says my connection was interrupted. So okay, now I'll keep going if you guys can still hear me. But um, I was just getting at the point, like, dude, I've been into either either their own. Uh, the bottom line, I'm just going to finish that point. It says connection is back. Um, I've seen or been part of that shit, and it's just not the time, and it really pisses me off when people go up there, even sharing the beliefs that I hold. Very pro gun. This is why we need concealed carry. That, like, dude, I'm so on board with that. But this is like, let's give it some space and time. And then people on the anti-gun side, trying to encapsulate the emotions and everything, and just like try to ram through Congress some kind of assault weapons ban or whatever it is. Like, dude, no. So that's I'm just gonna finish with that. I think you guys understand how I feel about it. Um, let's see. Sorry, I'm late. 2-8. No worries. Actually, Patriot, you're a little bit late to the party. And in the beginning, I was discussing how I was like trying to get all this stuff set up, and I didn't even like really intend to do this right now. I was actually trying to schedule this for later tonight, and then I hit the button that says go live. So like all of this stuff happened. This is kind of like shotgun blast. Like, here we go. So I was actually going to schedule it so you guys could get the notification, and then join me later. And then we're just kind of sending it. So no worries at all. You hear gunshots and see people on the ground, but there's no running. Nobody's panicking. People are just standing there. Yeah, so I'm going to address that. I've literally seen dudes. We had an Iraqi interpreter that he got shot 3 times. Is what we found out. And he, like, dude, he was fucked up, and he came over to us, like, I don't know, those of us behind cover, and he was like, I'm fucked up, and I was like, yeah, you are, dude. And he was talking to me like I'm talking to you right now. I was like, hey man, like, why don't you sit down? Like, I'll get you some water. Like, I think you need the fucking, chill. Um, says the connection is unstable again. Okay, it looks like connection is back. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I was saying, like, I've seen people who got shot, and it was very strange how nonchalant they were about it. And they just like I'm talking to you right now. Like, hey dude, like, I think I'm shot. I think I got hit. Like, what's up? And you're like, yeah, dude, yeah, you got a little fucked up. But okay, why don't you take a seat, don't fall asleep, here's some water, and let's keep moving. There are people who, victims of sexual assault, who talk about when it was going down and they finally realized it was happening and they were not about it, that they were disappointed in themselves, that they just froze and like, man, like, I hit the gym, I do this, I do that, like, man, I always thought if, but then when it was actually happening, I was just like there. You see same sort of thing with people who have been in car accidents or people watching it. I think this is kind of throwing it back a little bit, but at Virginia Tech, I remember a news story. I can't remember what year it was. I think it was like 2007 or something like that. Like, there was a dude who literally beheaded his girlfriend in like the Virginia Tech, like, if correct me if I'm wrong, if you guys want to fact check this, literally beheaded his girlfriend in this cafe, like mess hall for the college, and everyone around him just was frozen and did nothing. So I don't. I've seen people who were going through or observing extreme violence or circumstances or taking potentially lethal damage. I've seen people who just got blown up, and they're like, "Oh fuck, dude! Like, I don't even know what planet I'm on. Like, am I okay?" It's like, "Yeah, dude." And it's not like the movies. So, to say like, "Oh, um, I think it's all theater or something because there was gunshots and everyone was standing still." It's like, dude, like when people are killing and dying and things are happening and blowing up or whatever the fuck, like, and at first, especially, some people might think it's firecrackers or something, like they're not really sure what's happening. Um, you're also talking about civilians who don't have training to run towards the gunfire or away from it. Like, they don't. That's not a life that they live. And loud noises when they're just trying to grab some groceries in the parking lot. Like, I don't expect them to return fire and fucking get cover. Like, and I've seen it for myself. Like, you would be surprised how people, it's like, don't even. So, no, I don't think I haven't seen all of the videos. I was listening and watching some of the coverage while I was at work today, but it's like, I don't fault anybody for, like, dude, if you're getting groceries and some dude is getting crazy with the cheese whiz, the parking lot moving into the hardened structure of the fucking grocery store, like, most civilians, I think, and even myself, I've been out of the game for a while, dude. Like, I might sit there and be like, what the fuck was that? Like, PTSD is flaring up, and like, how many times do I have to like closet that shit and amp myself down every day? And like, no, maybe this is real, dude. Like, even me, I might stand there and be like, that sounds like gunshots, but am I having one of my moments I have throughout the day, or am I like, it's like, and so I don't fault anybody, and it's like, dude, we weren't there, we don't know. So, but I wouldn't fault somebody for, you know, shit is getting crazy, and people are just like, oh, what the fuck, like, yeah, that's not weird to me. So I wouldn't instantly be like, oh yeah, that's all stage, it's all theater. Like, no, that's like legitimately what happens. That really is. Okay, let's see. Um, Tennessee might become a constitutional carry state very soon. Yeah, so our state of Utah it's already passed and it's taking effect next month or in May. Constitutional carry. That's kind of a side note. It's man, dude, like, this is a really tough discussion to have, and I hope you guys can understand what I'm about to say. Um, Disclaimers from the start. I am totally a fan of constitutional carry. I've seen, at least where I grew up in California and also professionally did the gun thing out there, how the state, with the laws they pass, and the county sheriffs and the DOJ and everything else, like, how they would, on paper, it's like, oh yeah, like, all you need to do is submit all this and we'll give you a concealed carry permit if we think you have a need for it. And in reality, nobody could have it. So, I'm a huge fan of people carrying guns for self protection and self defense. I'm a huge fan. I will always believe is very cautious and skeptical ever of giving government, when it comes to giving government any kind of controls when it comes to making a list of who they deem to be acceptable or okay to conceal carry or have guns or have AR-15, whatever it is. So that is an undying time on the ranges and everything else. Uh, Probably at least once a week, either one of our rental guns or a customer gun, in the holes we have in the ceiling, floors, the walls, incidents, crazy shit, all kinds of stupid stuff. I will never support it, and I will never be a fan. But anyway, it's like I wish there was some kind of mandatory training before people could buy guns or carry guns. Now, let me clarify that so people don't freak out. My version of that is mandatory, like high school training, like sex ed, first aid, driver's education, like things that have to happen, like graduation criteria for high school. I wish included on that list was firearm safety. And what are we doing with guns? How are we safe? Let's make this happen. That's my version of it. If you want to get a high school diploma, full degree, like you, if you want to graduate high school, you need to do driver's ed, all this other stuff, but you need to have fire safety that happens, at least twice a year throughout your high school education. And I don't even move it back to middle school. Move it back to middle school. The training. I would love to see that mandated, but at that level, so everyone gets it. That would be my answer. The NRA tried this with Eddie Eagle. Oh, well, to buy a gun, you need to enroll in a training course or whatever. You need to do this, you need to do that. That's not my answer. So, through all the holes that we have in our ceiling and walls and benches and people loading bullets in backwards and the weird shit that we see every day, especially with all these brand new gun owners, I would love to see mandated training in the form of middle school, high school education as a graduation requirement across the board. Is that going to happen? Probably not. Their answer would be something I could never agree to, which would be, oh, you need to take this training course to buy a gun. You need to have this crazy long training course just to get a concealed carry permit if we think you should have one. It's like, no, dude, I will never be a fan of that. So getting back to the point with constitutional carry, legally and from a task and purpose point, I like it. I like that my state is going to constitutional carry like a month and a half from now. It's already signed and done. It's just, it takes effect in May. I would just, and I will never want that to be as a requirement to buy a gun or to carry a gun. I wish that could happen as like a graduation requirement for high school. That way everybody gets it. And whether you want guns or not, you at least have the knowledge. And I think that would help out. So constitutional carry, I think it's good. I would still, if you live in a state where constitutional carry is the thing, 100% guaranteed your state also has a concealed carry permit. Is it required for you to concealed carry? No. Would I encourage you to get one? Yeah, absolutely, always. Especially if you're going to road trip, reciprocity with other states. But also the training element is the big thing for me, to get that training, to seek training. But never under any circumstances would I ever sign off on or think it's okay for, training requirements before you're allowed to buy a gun. Or think it's okay for, training requirements before you're allowed to buy a gun or before you're allowed to conceal carry, like government mandated stuff. Like I want this to be universal, across all curriculum, which, I write my letters and I especially make my phone calls, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think there's any senator or congressman that I call that's going to make that happen anytime soon, but we'll see. Let's see. As far as I know, there are two bills that Congress has been looking at, and that's HR 8, HR 1446. I think they talk about transfers, background checks. I don't know if you have had the time to read that article I sent today, but I do think you will like it. I wonder why disarmament activists always use strategies like this. It's honestly really sad. Well, now we're going into Article 1 Constitution. So if we're looking at how do we make something into law? We have a bicameral Congress, so you got the House and the Senate, and they have to eventually approve the same version to Article 2, like the executive branch. So all of that, like sparing all of that, I've got videos on the Constitution, and I've got more that I want to do later. This was an intentionally slow and arduous process. If we're going to make anything a law at the national federal government to be the law of the land for all the states in this union, well, it needs to take time. We need to hear from the people who want it, the people who don't want it. We need to argue it. We need to amend it, change it, refine it, send it to the House and the Senate, back to the Senate. This is an intentionally slow, grinding process, and only the most worthwhile, needed laws can make it there. In theory, that was the idea. Um, the thing about a tragedy is it lowers the bar, because during, I guess, from like wartime operations perspective, like during peacetime, when there are no shootings, nothing crazy is going on, and somebody wants to submit an assault weapons ban, there's nothing really going on. It's a very arduous process. The bar is set very, very low. But with a tragedy, especially fresh on a tragedy, when things are fresh and people are riding on the emotions and they see the news footage and they hear the witnesses and they hear the news anchors like selling them this, like, it lowers the bar, because now you get more people, more constituents who are going to call or write asking for it. You're going to have more congressmen and senators who understand that their constituents are ambulance chasing on this particular topic right now, and they're demanding, hey, wouldn't it be good for my career if I'm facing re-election this year? Like, maybe I should care about this because they all care about this, right, at least right now. And I don't even care, but I guess I'll do it because I just want to keep my job and keep my thing going. Um, it's a pretty disgusting, pretty gross cycle. So tragedy, normally to pass a bill into law, to make it through the House and the Senate and the executive branch, and I would even add, surviving Article 3 of the Constitution, judicial scrutiny, like old school Marbury versus Madison, like surviving the judicial branch, that federal circuit, or courts, local courts, Supreme Court of the United States, like, that's a pretty high bar. But if you got tragedy, you've got emotions, you've got really awful optics of fire or blood or crazy stuff on the TV screen, that really high, intentionally set bar starts to kind of go down temporarily. It's a very small window, but it goes down. So that's why during peacetime, or when nothing is really going on, you don't see any talk of any serious movement at all for assault weapons bans. But when something like this happens, oh yeah, you see everybody talking about it. So, including our commander in chief, who talked. He had a speech today. I listened to the whole thing. And it's one of those things where, yeah, the bar is so high, it's very hard to get there. But temporarily, it goes down for a second. And this is the time to start. I understand. I still think it's filthy. I had about a year before I got out of the army, I got to go to Force Com, marksmanship competition at Fort Bragg. It's kind of a funny story how that all happened, but it was a 3-man team. You had an M249 Stogner, an M4 guy, and a pistol guy. From each brigade or duty station of ForceCom, Forces Command in the Army. So not including ODA guys, Green Berets, Ranger Battalion, like just the basic, like standard Army. You had a 3-man team that could go. And for 2018 ForceCom competition, I was the pistol shooter for Fort Polk, Louisiana. And I had, by that point, I only had one Beretta on my own personal inventory. So much. But I was also suspecting, because the M17 program had just kind of wrapped up and they were going for it, I also kind of suspected that they were probably going to throw us the M17. So I was practicing with my Glock 19X, my Smith & Wesson M&P, like any striker fire kind of gun I had or borrow. So practicing on the Beretta, everything else, we made it to Force.com at Fort Bragg. And they're like, surprise, we just stole all of these M17s from SFAB that was just standing up at the time. So this is the first year in this competition. Instead of the Beretta, we're using the M17, the brand new pistol for the Army. We spent a week with that thing. We put thousands, tens of thousands of rounds downrange. We actually had, I was surprised, we actually had Safariland ALS holsters for it. So great holsters, brand new guns out of the box from Sig Sauer in New Hampshire. And we spent a whole week with them. We were pretty impressed. Issues we had were last shot hold open was not guaranteed. And that's because on the M17 or the Army model, it has a manual safety. The gun doesn't need it. It was not designed for it. It was not designed as a necessary element to that pistol design. But of course, U.S. Army or the military in general, they're not going to adopt a gun that does not have a safety. It's just not going to happen, at least in the foreseeable future. So 6 Hour went back. They retarded their equipment to put a manual safety on it, just like Glock did with the Glock 19 MHS, the modular handgun system that did not win. That was the only time in Glock's history as a company they ever put a manual safety on their fucking safe action gun. Needed a manual safety, but the Army wanted it, so all of these manufacturers came out and put it on. And in the case of the 320, which in military parlance for that model was the M17, M18, it has manual safety. So me growing up shooting 1911s, being a huge, like that was my structural or foundation of pistol shooting. Well, of course, so you give me a safety, I'm going to ride on it. And most of the other guys were doing the same thing. And you would reach the end of the magazine and you wouldn't know it because riding your thumb on the safety is on top of that slide lock or slide release. And it would just hold it down as the slide runs past it on the last round. So that was an issue we were having. We had a couple initial failures within the first 200 rounds for each of us, and once 16. There were 16 of us. I'm going to wait for the, okay, it looks like hopefully we're back. 16 of us shooting the M17s that we had just got brand new out of the box. And it seemed like it was like a 200 round break-in period. And then after that, I wouldn't cause that to happen. But we noticed they were very an Army, like logistics, armor, like support standpoint. If the frame or the handle, I guess we can say, of the gun is not even the gun, and if it gets melted down in an MRAP fire, like we had in my second deployment, where guns were just getting melted and shit was burning, we can replace that. We don't have to code out the whole frame like we would on a Beretta. The whole thing is deadline. It's gone. So from a maintenance and support standpoint, it is so much better than a standard metal frame gun like a 92 FS or M9. Last shot hold open, we already talked about it. Initial break-in period, which we all got through, and everything was smooth sailing after that for all of us. The only concern I had was, well, it was two things. One, the rear sight is fucking huge. The rear sight is massive. Like on an M17 or M18, that thing is like an aircraft carrier with a cut in it as your rear sight. And I didn't like that. It obscured a lot of the targetry. It obscured, especially when we went to the kill houses, doing some indoor stuff. Like it was really taking up a lot of my situation, and I did not appreciate that. The next problem I had was the finish. I don't know if it's Cerakoting or what they do on the slide, but that shit was fragile as fuck. Like I remember that it was like 3 a.m. I was cold as shit, and I like accidentally dropped my M17 when I was trying to put CLP in it. And it was literally a foot off the ground. It was like a foot with gravel. And some of the ranges out there at Bragg, they all have gravel. And I dropped it and I picked it up and I like turned on my headlamp. I'm like, what the fuck? and the whole thing had all this scratches in it. And by the end of that week, because we were holstering and reholstering so much, and then me doing that and everything else, all our guns that started out as brand new M17s, they had like a silver top with a tan bottom. Like that was just kind of how it looked. So the whatever they're doing, Cerakoting or whatever it is on that slide, it is very fragile. At least sample size of only 16 guns. Fast forward to the guns we have for rent. We have a number of 320s for rent, Glocks, you name it, we got it. They don't give me problems. They perform. So the finish on those guns kind of fragile. I mean, it's I can compare it to another like the 365, the P365. That thing shits the bed just about every time I log about 2 to 3,000 rounds. Once someone shoots at 2 to 3,000 rounds, it fails, and it fails because the trigger spring breaks. It's actually to the point I have about 20 trigger springs ready to go in my spare parts at work at the shop there, because I already know the 365 is, it's not if, it's when this shit is going to fail. The 320 thankfully doesn't have that problem. It's I would put it there with Glock and Smith & Wesson MMP 2.0, HK VP9. Like these guns are going to just work. The slide finish, a little fragile. Manual safety, I would go without it. M17 or M18, absolutely tragic rear sights, awful. But if you get like a VTAC edition 320 or a 320 that doesn't have a rear sight the size of an aircraft carrier, no manual safety, flat trigger, dude, your money. That thing is awesome. Great gun. So the M17 for all considered. Let's see, I'm gonna wait. Oh my god, I'm sorry guys, connection sucks. Okay, looks like I'm back. 320 or the M17 M18, huge step up from the Beretta, especially for doing a pre-deployment workup. Like, hey, private schmuckatelli, 18-year-old private, here's a Beretta M9. You have 40 rounds to learn how to use this gun, and we're going to 2 weeks from now. You can better train people on the 320 or the M17. So huge step up from the Beretta. Huge step up from the Beretta. Provided you get the right make and model or type of 320, I think it would be good. I would not get an M17 or an M18 unless you like cool guy nostalgia. Like, hey, this is what the Army got, exactly this gun, and I want it. Unless you're in it for that, I would go without the manual safety. I would go without like the aircraft carrier sized rear sights. I would go, for a flat trigger, an X carry frame, flat trigger. So there you go. Oh man, I'm sorry. I've been neglecting your guys' comments here. I got about 20 more minutes and I got to go. Let's see. I would love for firearm safety to be part of high school education. There are literally more guns than people in the USA. Is more common sense to me. Yeah, so I fully agree with that. I've been saying that for years, dude. Like, whether you love guns or hate guns, guns are out there. We have more guns than citizens in this country. Like you said, we really do by the numbers. And at least from what we can tell, which is not accurate, but it's probably more than what we suspect. It's going to be out there, dude. It's like you want to send high school kids out there without sex ed or driver's training. Like, they're going to experience, they're going to be exposed to it. It's going to be something that shows up in their lives. Either we try to pre-stage that and kind of show them the way and let them at least understand what's going on, or we just kind of hide it in the closet, pretend it doesn't exist, and then they go out there and fuck up. So, like, what do you want to do? Let's see. My brother's a cop in New York City. He's also National Guard, and he's NCOIC, or the non-commissioned officer in charge, at COVID testing sites. And because he hasn't been doing NYPD strictly National Guard, they confiscated his firearms. Yeah, I think that maybe I'll Yeah, maybe you and I, Chris, should talk offline about that. That seems weird. Let me try to understand that. My brother is a cop in New York City, and he's also National Guard, and he's not commissioned officer in charge at the COVID testing sites. And because he hasn't been doing NYPD and just strictly National Guard, they confiscated his firearms because he's not NYPD on duty at moment. Okay, yeah, that needs a little more explanation, but whether it's New York, Jersey, Connecticut, Maryland, California, like you name it, Hawaii, any of those states, I'm curious about the situation, but I'm not surprised. I remember back in Southern California that we had LAPD, LA Sheriffs, Harbor Police, Beverly Hills SWAT. Like we had so many departments training at our range, and they could buy a California compliant AR-15, legally register it as a registered assault weapon with the state of California. Then they could take off all the garbage and put it into a normal AR-15 configuration. They could serve 20 years with that gun, riding in the patrol car as a cop. And then the second they retired, they would have to turn in the gun. So even if you've spent decades on the force as a California cop, the second you turn in the badge, turn in the gun, you are retiring. You had to turn in that registered assault weapon, and you could not retain it after. Um, Same thing went with the magazines, the high capacity magazines, anything over 10 rounds in the state at the time. They could legally purchase and possess them and use them as cops. But once they retired, they had to turn those in. And I was like, wow. I was like, they don't even fucking trust you. Like the second that you are out of California uniform, like the second you turn in that badge, you are now worthless to them. They don't even give a fuck about you. Like, so that was something I was surprised by, but I'm also not, fast forward years, like to this point, I'm not surprised other states kind of roll that way. It's just shitty overall. Um, One of my buddies, he just took over, acquired Light Fighter, but he's an NYPD guy, and I mean these guys are getting burnt out. Like we've had, I've talked with him. Like, dude, it's getting out of control, and that was real. That was real rich, wasn't it? That we're talking about all hating the cops and judging every single thing they do, which we should care about what law enforcement is doing and how they're using our tax dollars and how are they conducting themselves when they uphold the law in our communities. We should care. And if they make a mistake, we should come and say, hey, you fucked up. We don't like it. Let's not do it again. But we went from a whole year of hating cops. And then unfortunately we had a law enforcement officer who was killed in this, grocery store shooting in Colorado. And all of a sudden we care about cops or just that one for a second. And then the narrative is going to go back to, cops are evil. We need to defund the police. It's just fucking gross, but that's kind of a side note. Let's see. Let me tell you, 2A, I am calling Congress pretty much every day, telling them to oppose gun control. And yes, for anyone else like us who are making those calls or writing those letters, please ensure that you're, of course, being respectful. Don't do anything crazy, as upset as we might be or as heated as we are. We want to conduct ourselves as a sane, rational, respectful human being. Some people fly off the handle and do some crazy stuff, and now they get a visit from the cops because they were threatening. We don't need to live like that. That's not what we're trying to do. We can, as men or as mature adults, we can be wildly unsatisfied with the job that our representatives are doing, wildly unsatisfied with something making its way through Congress that maybe your congressman or senator or senators didn't originate. We can be upset with that, and we can still conduct ourselves in a respectful, professional kind of way. So I'd always encourage people, it goes back to Poor Richard's Almanac, Ben Franklin, you get a whole bunch of flies with a tablespoon of honey compared to a whole jar of vinegar. So just keep that in mind. Respectful, professional, and definitely let them know. If they're doing a great job, let them know. If they suck, let them know. If they're supporting a bill that sucks, let them know. If they're supporting a bill or making a bill that is awesome, let them know. Like, they need to know this stuff, good or bad. Just do it respectfully, peacefully, professionally. That's just kind of a base layer. We should all live like that. Let's see. Okay, before I get to this, I'm going to take a quick couple minutes here. I got to use latrine, got a refill on some cherry cola here. And if you guys don't mind hanging out for like 2 minutes, I'll be right back. Also, I think Miss Texas is making dinner, so I might snag like a quick like taste test of that and then come right back up. So if you guys can chill, I'll be right back. I hate interrupting, but again, this whole thing was kind of like on the fly. But I'll be right back. If you guys can chill, take this as a break. Get some chow, latrine break, like chow and rest plan. Like grab some drink, whatever you got to do. I'll be right back. Let's give it 2 minutes. Here we go. Okay. Let's see, get some more light here. All right. Thank you guys for being there. Can you guys see this crazy light ring thing? Been living in the dark ages this whole time. Okay. Oh my God, this is just a mess now. You guys deserve better. I'm trying to, like I was saying in the beginning of this, I am not the technology guy. Legitimately do not know what the hell. Okay, we're just gonna let that go. But now I'm all dark. All right, well, now it's not going back on. Who cares? Fuck it. All right. Okay. Let's get back to what we were talking about. So this one is an important one. Do you think that things are shifting to a more pro-gun perspective, generally speaking? Um, that's kind of a yes and no thing. But I actually do, if I had to answer that, I would say yes, because I've seen, like, we have tens of millions of brand new gun owners in this country that just cropped up over the last year. If you talk about rapid advancement, um, tens of millions of brand new gun owners over a 1 year period. I've seen every walk of life, every race, ethnicity, everyone, brand new gun buyers or people who already had, maybe they had like a little 22 rifle from Boy Scout camp or something, but now they wanted something that could actually like protect the home. And our concealed carry classes still are booked out at least 2 months in advance, fully booked. That's ultimately how things can help change. Is so many more Americans have begun to tap into their Second Amendment rights. Um, and they've seen it for themselves. You got city blocks getting burned down, break-ins. Maybe they live in a really shitty part of town where it's just kind of the norm for crime and gangbangers and drug dealers and stuff. I've even seen, you know, people who were like, hey, based, it's this may be true, this may not be true, but just the way that I feel and where I live, um, for my race and who and what I look like and who I am, like even if I call 911, are they going to shoot me? Are they like, do they even know? Are they going to think I'm the suspect immediately? Like what the hell? So I think I should probably have something because even if I call 911, is anyone going to show up in a timely fashion? And even if they do, can I trust that they're not going to kill me? Um, Something really sad to deal is we've had a lot of Asian Americans coming in to buy guns, a lot of Asian business owners, um, where they're getting bricks through their fucking windows and shit, which is thankfully kind of stopped ish. But after the salon shootings that happened last week, like we've had a double resurgence of that, where it's like, and coming from Los Angeles, like watching what the Korean business owners did in LA back in the riots, like, yeah, those guys, they were on the ball. They were tracking that shit a long time ago. Like, people are coming to burn down your business. Being on the rooftop with a Daewoo or a Mini 14 might be the only thing you got, but that's probably the most American thing you can do when there's nothing else to lean on. So, anyway, we've had a lot of brand new gun buyers, and I've taken on personal lessons, and I've taught everyone from, I mean, you name the profession, the gender, the race, orientation, whatever they are, you name it, I've taught that person in the past year. And I've also taught lefter leaning people. I've taught a lot of people that, like, hey, I wasn't against guns. I wasn't really for guns. Wasn't really my thing. But after all this, I need to buy a gun and I need to learn how to use it. I've also taught people like I was, part of mom's demand action for gun control. I was part of like really anti-gun and all this stuff, but now I want to buy an AR-15 because that's what everyone is telling me to get. I've rented your guns. I've shot all kinds of guns. That's the gun I want. Help me buy it and help me like sell it to me. We'll do the paperwork and then show me on the range like how does this work and how do I use it? Like, I've seen everything, dude. So the bottom line is when you have millions of Americans just finally discovering their Second Amendment and they're buying guns, they're utilizing it, and then they turn around and see on the TV our commander in chief and Congress trying to work on gun control. They're like, dude, you're trying to make me a felon overnight for something I bought because I need it. You don't know where the fuck I live. I don't have Secret Service guarding me. Like, um, I think it overall changes things, at least in a positive direction. The more Americans are involved actively in their civil liberties and their rights. So the narrative you might see on TV, like, dude, I always listen to podcasts or books or things like that. And today, I actually, took some time, about an hour, hour and a half, to actually watch from CNN, Fox, CBS, ABC, like every news source, every big mainstream media. And it felt like a soap opera. Like, and the context on that is I don't watch the mainstreams. I don't watch the news bulletins and the news reports. And I could only do it for like an hour and a half at max. It felt like a soap opera. And it's like, here's this really horrible thing that makes me feel bad, and you should feel bad too. And we need to ban guns. And this is so sad. And by the way, let's sell you toothpaste and like Coca-Cola. It's like, dude, I feel like something's wrong with that. And then, okay, we're back from commercial break, and now we have an interview with someone who was just involved in this horrific, lethal event, and now we're going to ask them all kinds of policy questions and how do they feel? Is it like, how the fuck do you think they feel? And is this even ethical to like put this guy in front of a camera and ask him to explain the worst fucking day of his life when people were dying around him? Like, so it's the whole thing was gross. And we see that, and the narrative on that makes it look like, oh man, guns are about to go away, whatever. But the truth is, with the millions of Americans that have just tapped into their gun rights over the past year and the millions more that follow, it's like, dude, what we're being told and what we're seeing on the television screen versus what I'm seeing every day in the gun shop, this whole past year of a dumpster fire we've had, like, two drastically different things. So that's where the yes and no comes from. Realistically, on the ground, yes, things are changing in a positive way because more people want the guns. They're understanding they're not scary. And having a gun in their house doesn't mean, a nuclear bomb is going to go off and everybody dies. Like, but at the same time, what we see officially and how they want to steer that ship, it's a very different story than what I've been seeing the whole past year. So that's the yes and no. How long am I streaming tonight? I got about 10 more minutes or less, because I'm going to have to go. But I'm going to try to get to all this. Let's see. I remember you said you didn't like the British SA-80. What are its drawbacks? Oh, fuck, dude. That could be a whole, like, dude. So, for those who haven't heard or been here for the previous Q&As or anything I've said, so I think, in my estimation, without a doubt, the worst, I'm only looking at NATO countries, so allied partner countries, NATO countries, the absolute fucking worst standard issue rifle that any NATO country has got to be, without question, the British with the SA-80. Now they're at the Alpha 3, the A3. Stamp steel, garbage, bullpup. The stamp steel I can run with because I've seen some AKs overseas and stateside that were stamp steel, totally 100% good to go. I own a stamp steel riveted AK, a Watcher 10. If it's done right, no problems. The problem is if it's done wrong, that's an issue. But I can look past that. Stamp steel, not my favorite, but it's workable if it's done right. Bullpup Design. I absolutely hate bullpup rifles, and the guys I know who are in love with bullpups, whether it's the Tavor or Steyr AUG, all that stuff, it looks really cool for the movies. In theory, on paper, it's so cool having a longer barrel with a shorter overall length. But when bullpups are cool until you have a jam or you have to do a malfunction drill or even worse, remedial action. Like, that's when everything sucks. So definitely not a fan of that. The thing is, I was just not impressed. We did have some malfunctions on the range when we like shot with the British. They shot our M4s. We shot their SA-80 garbage. And like, oh, can we do a trade? Can we get some M4s? I'm like, no, We were like, no, well, legally we can't do that. We're signed for these M4s, but also, even if we could, we wouldn't. Like, no, we are very happy with our AR-15s. That's what the M4 is. It's an AR-15. It just has an automatic setting on it. So like, we're very happy with Eugene Stoner's AR-15. We like this. We are gonna take that back. Thank you. Here is your, McDonald's like Happy Meal toy back, and I hope to God you can make things work, because this shit sucks, dude. Probably the worst service rifle of any NATO country, I think, right now. I honestly believe that, because I've seen the Finnish Valmets, I've seen the French FAMAS, we've had some interface with NATO partners. By far, like, holy fuck, dude. The British just need just AR-15 that shit already, like we did back in the 60s. Pretty far behind the power curve, but anyway. See, the badge allows you to carry firearm. He doesn't have a permit, so they confiscated them because he's not actively a police officer. Yeah, that sounds like a very New York thing to do. Oh, hey, when is an update on the Black Bess coming? Oh, man. I'm actually in pre-production. I've got half of it done. The next step is laying out the criteria of like, hey, this is what the Black Bess is. A modern take on an 18th century idea that the average everyday guy is going to have a military capable rifle, or in that case, musket, that can get things done a minute or less notice. Grab your shot, grab your powder, grab your haversack, grab your musket. Let's go. You might come home, you might not. You might be out there for weeks defending the township, defending your fellow colonists, engaging in military action against the British, up to and including anything. Field environment, austere conditions, being rained on every day, being chased by the British, getting in engagements and dealing with that shit. You need a gun that can put up with that. At the time, that was the Brown Bess musket, by and large, not exclusively, but it was pretty big. These days, if we were developing a rifle to fit that same criteria, and we were doing it in 2021, what would it look like? So that's what the Black Bess project is, for those who don't know. So I'm halfway through putting down the criteria of, okay, you want to build like a no shit fighting rifle. You want to build the Black Bess. This is the criteria that we have to stick to. And I'm kind of like a bowling alley, setting up like the bumpers, like, here's the lane, like, for every single part. Okay, for the lower receiver, this is what we're looking for. For the barrel, for the bolt carrier group, for the upper receiver, for the stock, for the pistol grip, for the lower parts kit, for the trigger, like every part of this gun, there's kind of a dictated thing. So it's not like this is exactly all of the parts that you will end up with, and exactly your Black Bess musket is going to look just like mine. No, it's like, hey, this is at a bare minimum. This is the minimum standard. Now, if like the minimum standard, for example, is a quality trigger, quality heat treated mil spec trigger, that's not a piece of garbage, that it's actually good to go. It's within the actual mil spec. This is a quality mil spec trigger. This is the basement floor. This is bare minimum. Now, if you got extra money and you want to, you can move up to like a Geisley SSA or something like that if you want to. But here's the bare minimum. This is the lane to stay within. Go build it. So I'm halfway through setting down. It's already typed up. I just have to record the second half of it, of like, hey, for the barrel, this is the cartridge, this is the barrel length. We will have chrome lining. We will have, at least a 16-inch barrel that's not pinned and welded. It has a mid-length gas system. This is preferred. This is acceptable. And it's literally almost in a way creating my own mil spec of like, this is the Black Bess mil spec. This is like how I'm calling this rifle out. Every single components or parts on the gun. This is the lane that you need to stay in if you want to produce or have a Black Bess musket. And if 100 guys do the black best and stay within these parameters for every single part, because the mission is quality. Like, yeah, we want to save money. We want every guy to have one. We want everyone to be able to afford it or eventually build it or obtain it. But the one thing we're not going to ever sacrifice is this needs to be durable. It needs to survive the field. It needs to be rained on, wet, austere conditions, not as much cleaning as we necessarily would want to give it. But if 100 guys follow that criteria, you're going to end up with 100 different black besses that all fit the criteria, but they're all a little bit different. So that's the whole project. Building something today reminiscent of that task and purpose of the brown bass musket and how it was used by the colonists in the colonies back in the 18th century in our war for independence. And if we wanted a similar concept today, that's what we're going to do. So anyway, that's what the black bass project is all about. I'm halfway through the first series on it, setting down the criteria of like, hey, this is what we're looking for if we're going to build it. And then I actually have it downstairs, so I can go get it if you want to see what mine ended up looking like. We can totally do that. Just let me know. I'll go run down there real quick and grab it, bring it back up. But yeah, it should be in the next 3 to 4 days. Hopefully, I'll be able to drop that video. Let's see. Grizz says, where I live in Texas, it's at least a 20-minute response time for county to show up. Yeah. And, this is a very unique time in human history, where you actually have a phone number to call and people will actually show up and care. You can go to a grocery store, buy your own food. You actually have power and clean drinking water at your house. Most people do, at least in this country. This is unparalleled. If you guys have ever had grandparents that were in the Great Depression or serious economic challenges, the Dust Bowl, anything like that, I've had the luxury of having family members that I've talked to about that who lived through it. What we're living today, dude, is so unparalleled to what humans have ever done ever. So, the fact that we do have a phone number, a magic phone number we can call if we need help, and the right people will show up and they actually will care and they will put out the fire or do this or do that. Even 20 minutes. And I'm glad that we have such a critical standard on this, but for centuries of human existence and recorded human history, that was unheard of, dude. And still, for a lot of people around the globe today, who are they going to call? No one. If they called anyone, they would show up to rape and pillage and steal their shit, kill them, and whatever. Like, we actually have a magic phone number we can call. And 20 minutes by American standards is pretty long. But the fact we have a magic phone number and emergency services who can show up to help deal with our shit, that's pretty incredible. So this concept of going back to, if you have the chance to talk to older people who lived through older shit, or if you've traveled overseas, whether it was in the combat zone or for, vacation, and you've gone to the third world or you've gone to places where people do not live like this at all. That's how most of the world lives. So getting back to the point, you talk to those older generations, like, they had to self-sustain. If they wanted food, they had to grow it or they had to kill it and raise it and then, put it to pasture, and then that was food for a while. If they had problems or a barn fire, they had crazy drunk neighbor with a gun or some crazy shit, like, they had to deal with that. There was no one they could call. They didn't even have a telephone in the house. So we are doing something right now that humanity by and large has never done. Such a small fraction of human existence has lived like we do. And even now on our planet, so few people live like we do. I wish more people could understand that independence of, like, dude, we have something really special here. But let's see, moving on. Let's see, meth heads always trying to go through your shit, trespassing and whatnot. Yeah, that sounds like not a Texas problem. That sounds like an everywhere problem. You look hard enough, or you know what to look for, you're going to find it. It does not take too long. Patriot, I think there are around 15 to 20 million AR-15s out there. I bet more now. Yeah, probably. Easily. Grizzly, yes, they should have kept the FAL. Yeah, the FN, FAL. Not the world's most accurate rifle. Probably a little bit advanced in terms of its gas system for standard infantry military use, but FAL just kicked the shit out of the M14 and a lot of other things. Probably the biggest problem with the FAL was the caliber. 7.62 NATO is a standard issue rifle. Fuck no, dude. That makes no sense. But at the time, we pushed that cartridge through. NATO had to bow down and take it and accept it. I think the British, with their 280 round they were developing at the time, that would have been so much better. And they were actually working on FALs chambered in that. It never, unfortunately, came to pass, and we just rammed 7.62 NATO down all of NATO partners, and even to this day, some NATO countries didn't drink the Kool-Aid. But I love 7.62 NATO. A little bit different, but referred to as the same. It's not the same, but 308 Winchester is kind of what we're talking about. That has a time and place. Definitely an improvement on 30-06. Instead of 63 millimeters of case and propellant, we have 51. It's basically doing the same, about 400 meters in. And that was just a sign of modern propellants, but that's, dude, no. 308 or 7.62 NATO as a standard infantry cartridge. Fuck no, dude. That makes no sense. That's why the M14 was the shortest lived U.S. military rifle ever in our recorded American history. Yeah, there's a reason for that. And, well, it's not just the cartridge; it was the rifle as well. But yeah, 308 has a time and place, but as a standard, usually with the ballistics and propellant that we have today, no, dude. So yes, they should have kept the FAL. I just wish it was in a better caliber, or a caliber that made more sense for that. But yeah, even an FAL and 7.62 NATO would have been better than an SA-80. Even the Alpha 3, seriously, don't disagree with that. The redcoats trying to take your M4s away. Yeah, that was kind of a joke of like, nah, dude, like we hundreds of years ago, we split away from you guys. So God and Eugene Stoner could get together and create this amalgamation of aircraft grade aluminum and steel and give us something that it just trounces and spins circles around your SA-80 piece of garbage that belongs in the dumpster. Just like throw it in the burn pit, dude. But even then, you know, historic. We had the Pennsylvania and Kentucky long rifles and cannons and everything else, and they just had their muskets. So I don't know. As Americans, we kind of know what's going on when it comes to guns. But yeah, they were good guys though, really good guys. They just had such a shitty rifle. 30 cal for Black Best. Fuck no. Fuck to the no. No. We need 7 mags of combat load, intermediate rifle. So, spoiler alert, Black Best is only 5.56. That is it. No 300 blackout, no 308, no 7.62 by 39. And get the fuck out of here with pistol cartridges. It is a 5.56 because love it or leave it. It is the most common chambering, most common magazines, most common ammunition, most common spare parts, most common gas system, most common everything in this country. And it happens to do a pretty good job, provided the right load, shot placement, and barrel length and distance. No. Black Bess is like 100% hard no on 30 cal. Like 100% without any doubt. It makes zero sense. If somebody wants to load up an AR-10 or even worse, an M14, M1A, and have a combat loadout, and they just know if they have breakages or they need the scrounge parts or ammunition, they're not finding any of it, and they want to carry that shit over 20 miles a day, be my guest, but chances are you're going to ditch that shit and grab an M4 as soon as you can. 5.56 is a hell of a drug, kids. Like, out of a 16-inch plus barrel with the right load, shot placement, and range, like 5.56 is a hell of a drug. And I can have 28, 29 rounds in this magazine, and I can carry a lot of them for the same weight that you're going to have a huge box mag of 308. Even polymer P mags for your AR-10, I'm still carrying more ammunition than you are, and I'm doing it for less. So, that's cool that you can like shoot a paper plate at 800 yards most of the time under ideal range conditions and everything's perfect. But dude, we're talking about 200 meters, 100 meters and in, running through the veg, going up and down hills, suppressive fire like battlefield needs here, carrying a lot of ammunition on your person, being able to move, being able to get things done, carry more ammunition for less weight, and ammunition that actually does some shit with the right barrel length, shot placement, range, and load. Yeah, no, 5.56 is the only authorized caliber for black bass. If you guys want to follow the rule book, 30 cal has zero place, unless only exception is if it's an AKM, which I mentioned that the black bass is going to be an AR-15 and it is going to be in 5.56, but if you're in a band state or all you have is an AK or something, you can still kind of force it to work. AK in 7.62, that's the only AK I'd ever buy is in 7.62 by 39. But no, if we actually, as free Americans, we have choices. We can buy parts. We can build what we want to build or buy what we want to buy. It's going to be an AR-15 and it's going to be in 5.56. Hell yeah. But okay, let's keep moving on. Let's see. I have a friend that is in the British Army that I would like to mess with a lot. He has never tried an M4 before, but he really wants to try one. Yeah, dude, if you ever get him stateside, have him shoot an AR, and he will instantly hate everything about what he's issued more than he already does, guaranteed. Grizz says it's a necessity, a way of life to own a rifle, even if it's grandpa's 30-30. Yeah, something about an American rifleman, dude. Americans with rifles get shit done when we need to. End of story. So, see, Grizz says 77 grain it is. Yeah, I would actually, weirdly enough, so my black bass has a 16-inch barrel, and I purposely choose 5.56, 55 grain. And I have 77 grain OTM, the Mark 262 load. I have that, but you know what? What I really want is velocity. 55 grain out of a 16-inch barrel, 5.56 load, so we're pushing 3,100 feet per second on average out of that barrel with a 55 grain FMJ. That dude, you do not want to fuck around with that. So, yeah. So, but the 77 grain, like a Mark 262 load, that performs outstandingly well, especially if you have like a 10.5 barrel like I do on an AR pistol, shorter barrels. That's all you really want to use. So, but 55 grain, it's lighter weight. Yeah, I know it's crazy, but 28, 29 rounds of that in a magazine. If you have a P mag, you can go the full 30 on that. 55 grain, ounces make pounds, and you know the rest. Pounds make pain. 55 grain, though, ballistically out of a 16-inch plus barrel, that is no joke. That is not a joke. So I go with that. Plus, I don't have to mess with my Zoe where I zero the rifle on 55 grain and then I just have like 77 grain that I never want to shoot. I am actively like zeroing, practicing, and shooting with the same rounds that I carry in it for my daily stuff. So, and that way it kind of makes sense. You don't have to worry about, oh man, I've zeroed the gun on 55 grain, but I'm actually sending 77 grain downrange. How is that different? It'll be different. So At least right now, 55 grain standard FMJ XM 193, cannot go wrong with that. That's what I do. Last question, and then I have to go. Do you like muzzle brakes? Are you trolling me, dude? No, I, uh, I don't. Not a big fan. The only thing about a muzzle brake that I like is if the gun is going to have a dedicated suppressor on it. That suppressor is just going to live on that rifle. It never comes off the gun, and we're always shooting suppressed. That's where the muzzle brake, to me, I love it. At least in terms of like blast chamber, like we have these huge baffles on the muzzle device. Because if we're suppressing it 100% of the time, we're never taking the suppressor off. That kind of acts as like sacrificial baffles. So it's kind of extending your life of the baffles inside your suppressor. But in terms of like, no, I've never thought that 5.56 had a crazy recoil. I never thought it did. So I never saw a need to put a muzzle brake on a AR-15 chambered in 5.56. It just like I mean, but I understand like we do have wounded warriors, there's people with disabilities, shoulder surgery, broken collarbone. So like if you have a physical ailment, maybe you have arthritis or osteoporosis, like you have a reason why the 5.56 is outstandingly hard on you. Okay, fine, do the muzzle brake, dude. But like for the rest of us, no. Now, if we're talking about like, hey man, I have a 300 Win Mag hunting rifle. Yeah, yeah, muzzle brake that thing, dude. It's already going to be loud, so or suppress it, whatever, if you can in your state. But I'm really not a big fan of muzzle brakes on small arms for the most part, especially AR-15s and 5.56. I think it's just companies that come up with stuff so they can take your money. Cost benefit analysis, is it really changing the whole game for you in a positive light? I don't think so. And some muzzle brakes actually give you negative rise, so you actually start to like fall lower as you're going. I've shot some guns like that. I'm like, dude, you're actually having to like raise the gun up as you shoot because it's bringing you down. Like, what is going on? And then you build up some training scars shooting that specific gun, and you move on to someone else's gun, and now you're amplifying. It's just no. I always say A2 birdcage on an AR-15 is the way to go until you get a suppressor, and then you put on the suppressor host muzzle device and then suppress it 100% of the time, and then you're done with the A2 birdcage. Other than that, flash hider is okay, but still A2 birdcage, there's no reason really to go beyond that, to be honest, my opinion. Have you tried British tea before, Mr. 2A? I don't know why I'm asking this. Yeah, my British grandmother, Earl Grey, everything else, like, trust me, there's a lot of tea I've had. Thanks for the stream. Looking forward to the next one. Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate that. Muzzle brakes aren't really necessary for 5.56. Yes, agreed. Okay, guys, going to have to wrap it up. Hope you guys are doing well. We'll see how things continue to go. Do have some positive stuff going on. The Supreme Court is looking at potentially taking a second case out of New York, which we probably should have talked about sooner, but I'll end on a positive note. And that is a bunch of plaintiffs or a bunch of guys who applied for the concealed carry permit and they were denied. So basically, if the Supreme Court takes it, we are looking at a potential case that could expand the Second Amendment from just inside the home to outside the home. And possibly that could eliminate may issue states entirely, like wipe that off the map. So don't want to get the hopes up too much, but even Justice Clarence Thomas years ago, said, hey, we have a lot of Second Amendment stuff that has kind of shown up since Heller versus DC back in 2008. We are not actively taking these cases that kind of need to be taken by the Supreme Court it's about high time we take Supreme Court cases. Justice Kavanaugh is the same way, and Gorsuch as well. We got Amy Coney Barrett now, which I was talking about a while back, and everyone was, you guys could see it, but everyone was kind of worried about the election and the results and stuff. I'm like, dude, you guys don't understand. Like, we have a Supreme Court that is very favorable, and they're also willing to take cases that a Supreme Court even 2 years ago was not going to take. And even if Justice Roberts wants to flip flop like he did on Obamacare, it doesn't matter. The numbers aren't there anymore for the anti-gun side on the Supreme Court. So we got some interesting positive stuff going on. But at the end of the day, I'm going to leave you guys with that. Definitely going to take a break here. Glad you guys are all here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And stay tuned for more content. So I will see you guys at the next one. All right. Take it easy.